Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? I know we all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. Let's jump right on in. And joining me is my partner for everything, Lina.
So let's talk about something serious this time. So I'll give you a little clue as to why I came up with this subject. Take a look at this.
We have and always will have the strongest, toughest fighting force.
So I don't know about you, but as foreign speakers, English is not our first language. I think that's possible. I could make this mistake. But if you're a native speaker, unless you have, something like dementia or Alzheimer's, I don't know what it is.
Toughest grading force.
Like grating cheese, I guess. That'll be Italians.
Interesting. For sure. So what about, when it comes down to short-term memory?
Well, my grandfather and my mom, they both have Alzheimer's, so I'm pretty familiar with the short-term memory, actually even long-term memory loss eventually, right? Because as they degrade, eventually my grandfather stopped remembering his great-grandchildren, and then he started forgetting who I am, and then he forget about who my mom was. So eventually the long-term memory also degrades, but just short-term memory goes first. That's the first sign of something like dementia or Alzheimer's.
And it's a hard thing to see as they slowly waste away. And then I remember they actually recognize you as someone else, your grandma, right? Your grandma thought you were actually your mom.
Yep. So they get confused and they have trouble speaking is one of the other signs of Alzheimer's. And mood swings, they tend to get somehow angry all of a sudden, and then they'll be calm down, and then they get angry all of a sudden. It's very uncontrollable.
And of course, they forget how to do very simple tasks, right? Stuff that they may have been doing all their lives. Like, we give some examples of that.
Well, when I was a teenager, my grandfather was already in the hospital, right? So I remember it was one summer that I actually walked from my house to the hospital every day to feed him. And that's because he can't eat himself anymore. He can't even do the simple, old people food is just basically liquid, right? You just have to spoon it in or even just, take a straw or something and slurp it in. But they can't even do that anymore. So that's something they can't do as their Alzheimer's get worse.
And then, I noticed, because I was there a couple of times, is like, we're trying to engage with him, talking to him, and he just literally had a lack of interest in what was going on, right?
Yeah, they do this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like they're almost in their own world, right? So that, it's difficult to see, it really is.
It's like they don't care, but they really don't. I guess they really don't. And they have a lot of difficulties following what other people are saying because, the memory's gone, the short-term memory's gone. Basically, the cache is gone, right? So
Correct. Yeah, they keep
can't
refreshing.
follow along. So, which is why also one of the symptoms is that they got confused a lot, which is probably what makes them angry in the first place.
Right, and we're just going to watch another little clip here.
I've sort of lost faith for a while on being able to do big things. If you could do anything at all, Joe, what would you do? I said I'd cure cancer. They looked at me like, why cancer? Because no one thinks we can. That's why, and we can. We'd end cancer as we know it. Deliver on our sacred obligations to veterans.
So, I would definitely call that confusion because somebody cured cancer, and from the last time I checked, cancer's still around. It's not cured.
No, I mean, cancer actually technically is something that we all have. I mean, cancer cells, we all have that. And it's just a matter of whether it becomes something bigger. And it's not something that can be cured. It's just something that you have to manage and change your lifestyle so that it doesn't get worse.
Yeah, it's like Linda says, we have cancer in our bodies all the time. It just depends. Are we feeding the beast? You feed the beast, you're going to get cancer. Or if you have something that triggers it, you're also going to get cancer. Definitely, we just want to keep your mind, your body clean as much as possible.
Well, if he can cure cancer, maybe he can cure Alzheimer's. Or maybe you forgot that he did cure Alzheimer's. Who knows?
So true, so true. Just poking a little bit of fun, of course, because our topic this week is dementia, and it's like once you start seeing these signs, the dementia signs, like is that confusion, language. Like if that's your first language, you should be able to speak it very well. Obviously, English is our second language, and talking to Kristy, one of our best friends and co-hosts, she'll always say, "Hey, I think you meant to say this." I was like, "Well, people understand. English is not our first language. We do the best we can."
Yeah, just going back to my grandfather and my mom, eventually they just switched back to their first language, which is Chinese. Because after a while, even though they're very good in English, my grandfather was actually an English teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was. But even then, by that time, they actually couldn't handle a second language anymore.
And then, like, once you start getting, more of these symptoms, how else does it affect your life? Like, what did we notice when we had, mom slowly progressing from dementia towards Alzheimer's?
Well, it's not just about the brain. Eventually, they couldn't control the emotions anymore. You remember how, because our old house, our house was sitting on the slope?
Yeah.
And my mom just basically you push it a little bit and she'll fall down.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, so they fall off a lot because they can't really control it anymore. So that's just one of the things that you have someone in your family that has Alzheimer's, something like that. Just be careful to take care of them because they can fall off easily and they trip easily.
And of course, it's funny. It was not really funny, but when my dad was in a senior age home, they always lose some of the residents because they hop on the elevator and then they wander off, and they lost their sense of direction, so they don't know how to get back. It's sort of like letting your dog go and they don't know how to come home. It's sort of sad in that aspect.
Yeah. I mean, that we actually have silver alerts here in Texas.
Yes.
That's basically what it is. They just wander off and they forgot how to get home. They just lost a sense of direction.
Correct. And then the last one, this one sort of can be very hurtful, is poor judgment, right? They tend to lose their filter on what they may say, or they may keep saying over and over again because they said it once and forgot about it. All right, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, yeah, they have no filters at that point, so they say whatever they want. And they tend to be very confused about what other people like and they don't like. My mom always thought that I like pork. Yes. I absolutely do not like pork. So that's one of the confusions that eventually it affects the people around you. So it's not like, I'm sure she feels fine. Like she's not, she's happy. But, it's everybody around her that is affected somehow. It makes you feel sad.
So true. So, those are some of the signs of dementia to look for, because a lot of times it just slowly progresses. And, we're going to be talking a little later on how we can slow this down or maybe in some cases reverse it. But before we do that, coming right up is Kristy's Kids Corner.
We all hope to age gracefully so we can enjoy our later years full of energy, vitality, and good health. But so often, with age, our bodies start to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy, skin, healing and recovery time, sleep, it all just seems to go downhill. Unless you're using LifeWave X39, the world's first product ever to activate stem cells. A true breakthrough in regenerative science that helps restore our bodies to a healthier, more youthful state. The secret? By harnessing the power of LifeWave's patented phototherapy, X39 uses light to elevate a peptide proven to signal the activation of stem cells. Think about it. These are the cells that generate and regenerate all the cells and structures of the human body. They're the building blocks for our organs, tissues, blood, and immune system. They also serve as an internal repair system everywhere. But as we age, stem cells become less effective. Their ability to repair damaged tissue is reduced. In fact, by age 60, they've slowed dramatically. But all that changes when just one LifeWave X39 patch is placed anywhere on the body each day. It's time you experience the power of X39.
Hi everybody, Kristy here. For this Kids Corner, now that we're entering August, where I'm going to talk to you about stocking your child's backpack for school with things that teachers love to see and teachers hate to see. Number one, the backpack, the most essential tool the kids need, right? Please, if you have children that are school age, do not get them a toddler-sized backpack. They're too small. They're not functional for anything other than pretty much carrying the lunch or something like that. They need a larger backpack. I personally love the roller backpacks because I've seen kids struggling to have backpacks that are just too heavy. Consider when you're traveling, don't you prefer a roller luggage to carrying it on your shoulder? Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. We have to think about the paper and the storage. Do not give young children, elementary age, notebooks with coils in them. The coils come undone, they start to unravel, they are pokey, they are sharp, and they can be dangerous. I know one teacher that scratched herself so bad on one that she actually had to go to the hospital. So no coils. It's really unnecessary to have those. Do get a binder where you can put loose leaf paper in, meaning it's just loose paper that goes in with the 3 holes in the binder, and separator tabs with the storage sleeves. That's extremely handy and helps the children learn how to organize things right from the beginning. And trust me when I say half of doing well in school is staying organized.
I love that. You see that little Ninja Turtle?
That's cute.
Well, welcome back. You like to talk a little bit about dementia and the Alzheimer's. Do you know the difference?
Well, dementia is actually a general term. It refers to like a group of diseases, and Alzheimer's is actually one of them. Huntington's is another one. Actually, Parkinson's is also one of them that they all together, and some other ones they all consider part of dementia.
Oh, wow. Yeah. My dad suffered Parkinson's almost 20 years before he passed away. So, we're going to talk specifically on improving brain health. So some of the ways that we can improve our brain health is making sure we have proper blood flow going to the brain, because obviously if you have no blood flow, your brain's not being fed nutrients and you're just going to pass out.
Brain dead.
Yeah, you'd literally be brain dead. And, we did have Dr. Devin Young from NUCA talking about that, a few episodes ago. So if you haven't checked out an episode, make sure you check that one out. What are some other ways to improve brain health?
Well, you may not think about it, but your gut actually affects your brain. And we have a book on our website that shows you how it's done. But basically, your gut and your brain is connected together by a vagus nerve. It's kind of like a highway between the 2 points. Mm-hmm. And if your gut is healthy, it will deliver a healthy kind of cell information to your brain and keep your brain healthy. So that's part of the keeping brain healthy, is to keep your gut healthy.
And then, when it comes to blood flow to the brain, it's also very important to find out that you don't have blood clots, right? Blood clots are a lot of problems. And if it's completely blocked, then of course you're going to be brain dead. But if you have minor blood clots, it can start causing some of these problems. You may start losing functions in different parts of your body because your brain controls everything. You may start exhibiting Parkinson's or Hunter's or MS and stuff like that, because you got different parts that's being blocked that controls different parts of your body. So that's very important too.
So think about it, it's kind of like a highway, right? We used to live in the Bay Area, so Highway 1, Pacific Coast Highway, is basically one lane both ways. And sometimes when it rains a lot, they get the landslides. And when that happens, they block the highway and nothing goes through. And that's basically what your veins does too. It just, when you get blood clots, that's what's happening. It's blocking the flow. And when your flow's blocked, that's not good for anybody.
Correct. And inflammation also happens in the brain, just like the rest of our body. If we have inflammation in our arms and our elbows, then you got sore elbows or you got sore joints. But if you have inflammation in the brain, that's when all sorts of things is going on. And ways to reduce inflammation is a ketogenic diet is supposed to be really good for dementia and Alzheimer's
Like
and stuff like
coconut
that.
oil,
Yeah.
MCT, things like that. Very healthy oils is really good. Bad oils is really bad for your brain.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things.
Yeah, it really feeds on oils, and make sure to lower all sugar as much as possible, even like the good sugars, if you notice that you're having brain issues, right?
Yeah. And of course, if you want to keep your brain healthy, use it. You don't just go watch movies or TV all day long. Use it for reading, solving puzzles, writing something, making up something. Just make sure to keep it active. Don't just leave it alone and leave it brain dead. Otherwise, your brain thinks you're not using it. You just give up.
That's so true. That's why you're always on brain games. And your dad actually plays Sudoku, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Even to this day, he's playing
He's
Sudoku.
90 and he's pretty bright.
Yeah, I think that's so
He still
important.
beat us in poker.
That's right. And we actually play this Chinese game that's called Big Two too, and he usually beats us all on that too. So it's really amazing what your brain can do if you're keeping it sharp. And finally, the last thing that we want to talk about, if there's any damage to your brain, it's important to try to, re-stimulate back the brain, to grow back stem cells for the brain, right? To repair damage. And we talked a little bit about our patch last week on stem cell patch that can actually repair cells, right, at a cellular level. And the great thing about stem cells is it will repair the damage in whatever part of your body you have. So if you start having brain cells that are dying away, or certain blood vessels that have died away, it will help repair that too. So always be active in your repair rather than just hoping it gets better.
Yeah, so everything we talked about is everything makes a difference. So, take small steps every day, a little healthier oils, better sugars, do a little bit of exercises, go out and breathe some fresh air. Everything helps.
Read some books to stimulate your brain. I think, that's a lost art. No one's reading books anymore.
Absolutely. When's the last time you read a book?
Well, actually, not too long ago. Not too long ago. I was actually reading yesterday. So, no, there you go. So,
yeah, there you go. So we're trying to keep our brain healthy too.
All right. Coming right up, we are going to have an amazing interview with our guest host, Kristy, and of course, with her company, Barefoot Learning Club.
Yeah, and she mentioned they're actually on something, I forgot.
Yeah, they got
brain dead.
See, not enough brain circulation.
Something
today.
about press releases. They got onto about over 500 press releases.
Yeah,
and that's a big deal about it.
It is, and it's very enlightening. Coming right up, you can watch that video.
Stay with us.
Hi, everyone. This is Kristy Boyd Johnson of the Barefoot Learning Club. It is a sad fact that today politics have completely taken over the schools. Real learning has been sacrificed for political agendas. As a result, kids are not learning to read. We have second and third graders barely reading, except for those lucky kids who will read no matter what the schools do to them. Unfortunately, that is not the majority. When I was teaching, I watched how really good reading systems were systematically eliminated from the schools. I saw kids shutting down and believing that they were too dumb to learn. Worse still, by making reading unattainable, they are essentially stealing our kids' futures. So the rebel that is me went on a quest to find reading programs that really work, that work with our neurological systems to enhance and speed up the learning process. And the number one thing that needs to happen is that we have to teach our kids to read. That is why Alysia and I started the Barefoot Learning Club. We are giving everyone the opportunity to learn to read in a way that is simple, fast, and fun. Best of all, your kids will start having success and never again believe that they are too dumb to learn. Go to barefootlearningclub.com now and sign up. Join me in being a rebel and let's get our kids reading. If they can read, they can literally do anything.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. I'm excited to have two special guests on our show today. When the world was shut down, Kristy and Alysia, they realized that kids were not only losing a ton of learning, but they were seriously behind in the first place. Kristy is a veteran teacher specializing in teaching kids with learning differences
and Alysia is the mom of two and was seriously worried about her own two kids. Together, they formed Barefoot Learning Club to give kids a real foundation in reading that gives them the ability to do anything that they want. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Thank you, Andy. It's so great to be here again.
Great. Thanks for being on the show, Alysia. This is, I think, your first time on the show.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So I would like to ask you guys, when the world shut down, and and even in the States, or in the United States, there were certain states and cities that had more of a shutdown in schools, more so than others. And how do you think that affected the learning abilities of the children that were stuck at home, maybe for months to even a year on end?
Well, from my point of view as a teacher, I think it basically, when it was just basically the kids saw it as a free vacation. It was, we don't have to go to school anymore, yeah. And everything was, for a while, was just shut down. And by the way, Alysia and I were both in San Diego, so we were in California, which is one of the real heavy lockdown states. And yeah, and the kids they were out of there. There was going to be no taking stuff home. I mean, there may have been in some schools, some kids who are those kind of kids are going to just learn no matter what. But for the most part, I think most kids were just kind of, yay, early summer vacation. Alysia, what do you think? How about your kids? How were they at the very beginning?
It was more of a shock at the very beginning. I remember Alexis, my older, a lot of the kids in her class it was a small school. They were really actually emotional about, I think it was just the scare of the news. Like they all got really emotional and they didn't want to leave each other. They wanted to stay and keep it normal for what they were used to. But once we got home, we had maybe 2 months left in the school year, I think, when all that happened. It was March. So yeah, 2 or 3 months. And it was just a scramble. It was such a scramble. Like and it's nobody's fault, but the teachers, the schools, the parents, none of us knew what we were doing. And the kids just kind of took advantage of it. And nothing really was learned in those last 3 months. And then moving into the next school year was just even harder. I think it was even harder.
It was complete and total chaos. Every teacher I knew was like, one day they tell us this, the next day they tell us that, we're online, nobody knew which way was up. And the kids figured out that for the online learning, that if they logged in and then the system would record them as present in class, then they just hit their mute and turn off their video and go do whatever they wanted anyway. And so teachers are looking at a black screen. I can't tell you how many of my teacher friends said, I can't teach to a black screen. I can't either.
From my understanding, because you of course you have a teacher background, you're listening to your previous colleagues, how everything was happening behind this lines. They're trying to going online. A lot of kids weren't even taking it seriously, right? Because they're not in class, there's no accountability. I imagine during those months up to that, leading to a year for some places, that some of these kids, they must have really fallen behind, right? Like, well, what happens now that school's back open? Like, can they catch up the year that they lost?
Well,
I would say mine did not. They didn't catch up. Mine, even into the following year, once we were reintroduced back into like normal school, that was the hardest year of all for us, because they didn't reacclimate very easy. It was a lot, and they didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to go to school. They didn't want to be there. So that was even harder. So it was like 2.5 years that was lost for my kids. And I'm sure
that's a long time.
Yeah. And then you can imagine the kids who are at the end of the scale of what that I worked with kids who struggled anyway. The loss there, there's no catching up. There's only starting from where you are now and moving forward. There's it's an illusion that you can make it up. You can't. Kids, they need to learn at their own pace, and they're all different. And it has to be a natural, organic thing. So you can only start from where you are now and move forward. So that's why I'm so big on the foundational learning of reading, because it's been taken away. It was taken away way before the shutdown. It's been systematically removed from the schools, the tools that the kids need to read. And it just incensed me. I was always fighting with everybody. Like, you don't understand. And then I just did my own thing with them and got them, did my own kind of training on my own dime to find solutions that actually work, that help the kids learn in the way our brains work. And everybody's a little different in how you adjust in a room full of kids when they're all different, and everybody's having fun and enjoying the process. That's a big deal.
So you two came together and thought up of the Barefoot Learning Club, right? And can you tell us, a little bit more about how's that different from like after school programs like Kumon? Because I know my nephew went to Kumon every day after school, and and I don't know if that really helped them or not, but I guess it kept them out of trouble. But since we know so many kids have fallen behind, especially like you said, reading skills, and I'm sure parents are frustrated. Alysia, you're a parent, with them being so far behind, I'm sure you wanted your kids to catch back up all that time that was lost. How did Barefoot Learning Club come about to help solve this problem?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a lot of me venting to Kristy about what I was going through in those years. I'd call in tears. I'd be sending texts like, I just don't know what to do. Like, we're fighting all day. They don't want to listen. They don't want to do their work. This is when they were learning the emergency learning. And then also once it was time to go back to school that year and a half later, that they just didn't want to. And so it was just battling them all the time. And I just kept thinking there has to be another way, that this can't work. My kids can't be the only one experiencing this right now. So it was a lot of conversation between us, and Kristy finally just said, well, why don't we just make this? Why don't we make this into something that can help other people? So we started planning it out from there.
Yeah. And we're not exactly a homeschool program, although you can use this as a homeschool program, especially for the very young children. But the main thing is that for very young children, like starting out in kindergarten, they should be reading by the time they are coming out of kindergarten. They should, but I've seen it firsthand, incoming first graders, second graders, even third graders are not reading. And there's a reason for that. And we're taking that away. We're like, no, that reason is not real. That reason is a lie that's come along from wherever, and it's not necessary. We want them to read. So we decided that if we started with the littles, teaching them right from the get-go how to read, like they'll be reading within that first month, actually reading, not just sounding out a letter here and there, but actually reading. Right. And then get them to that point. And then for older kids, they can come in and do our program as a supplement. So it's different from something like Kumon or any of those. Now, to be fair, I don't know anything about Kumon, but typically they tend to be tutoring as like an attempt to fill in the gaps with what the kid is missing specific to them. And those have a place. Those are valuable. They have a place. But we wanted to remove the problem altogether, because the tools that the kids need, the older kids, there's a whole big part at the beginning that you have to teach with the littles that you don't have to teach with older kids. You can skip all that and get right to it. And it clicks. And they start to go, oh, here's one of my favorite things they say. Why didn't they just say that? It's like, yeah, I agree. But when they start clicking, and then they start gaining confidence, and then they'll try something new, and they'll try to read something they wouldn't have even attempted before, because they're feeling brave and they're being supported. So even if they make a mistake, we'll correct it. We'll move on. We'll all learn from that. And they just start to accelerate. And that is a beautiful thing, because then they start thinking about what they want to learn instead of about how frustrated they are that they can't read.
So it sounds to me like this is, it's at least starting from the littles, and on a mom's perspective, Alysia, it is definitely going to be less frustrating for parents at home to try to teach children how to read, because it seems like it's a fundamental skills that schools aren't providing as much more. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, the cool thing about Barefoot Learning Club is that Kristy gets on every day and does the teaching. So the parent doesn't have to, because for me, I remember I was considering homeschooling. My kids were older, but there was no way I would be able to teach my kids. And I know most parents feel that way. So this is what's really cool, is that Kristy gets in and teaches the reading and math lesson daily. And so the parent just needs to be with their child if their child is in like kindergarten, for example, just to make sure they're tuning in and absorbing the information. But it's really just a whole kind of uplifting, a freeing, expansive way of learning for the child and the parents, so that there's more time to play, more time to bond, more time to just go enjoy the day. Isn't all that pressure, all the pressure that even for homeschool, a lot of the homeschool programs, there's so much pressure of like, you have to do this, you have to check in with these people. And it just doesn't need to be that way. It really doesn't.
And one thing that's really important is that this is not a 7-hour school day. This is about for the littles, it's no more than an hour. It's the actual teaching time with me. I broke it down into tiny, tiny little bites. So they learn one thing and then they get to absorb it. They get to practice it. They get to play and move and make the connections. And as the days go by, they start putting them together naturally. It's the way the brain works. And their brains are sponges when they're 5, even when they're 7 and 9, So the older ones, it's a little different because they already know certain things that we have to teach the littles. So, but it's an organic way. The parents too. This is one of the things that I keep telling people, and I can't seem to get this across, but I'm going to try, is that the taking away of the tools has been happening since the 70s. So parents who have young children right now, I guarantee you, they'll be sitting there going, I didn't learn this. I didn't know this. And they're going to be filling in the gaps. So their learning is going to expand in terms of reading. Well, how much more confident can an adult get? Correct. When their foundation is coming into place as well. And then they get to have fun playing the same games with their kids. I mean, we're like,
I love that. As a foundational course, you mentioned that, one thing leads to another. It's almost like I remember as a kid, one of the things I love to do is like connect the dots. And that's basically what you're doing. So this is basically an easy way for the little ones, like going into kindergarten, grade 1, to start learning the fundamentals where they enjoy learning, right? Is that what Barefoot Learning Club's all about, at least for the littles to start off with?
Yeah. Everybody who does our program is going to have fun, because it's a combination of the academic piece that they don't get at school. That's why we're calling our forthcoming book Ditch School.
Love it. I love it.
And the play-based learning, which has been proven unbelievably to support that academic learning. If you don't let kids move, they just don't learn as well. You can't make them sit for 7 hours a day and expect them to absorb. They're just not going to do it. None of us can do that. Nobody can do that. So it's good for everybody. It's fun. It is work. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Learning to read is a learning process. You have to go through the process, but I made it so that you're not doing 7 hours worth of work in a day. You're doing 15 minutes. And it's one little piece at a time, and it's like building blocks. So every piece builds on the next, and then it starts coming together very, very quickly. In fact, the person that I learned this from, she was a master teacher of kids with dyslexia. And I read one of the letters that someone wrote, the mom wrote. Her child was a 6-year-old in first grade, severely dyslexic, could not read. And one school year with this teacher, and he was reading at a 3rd grade level.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it works. It works. And I know it works. I've done it. And so, yeah, we're pretty excited about it. I modified it a lot, though, so that it's not in a classroom. It's virtual, and it's tiny little pieces. So it's very manageable for even a working parent to work into their day.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
this is something that like a parent can take a day, like take an hour of the day to go through the lesson with the children, learn along. It's a little bit less frustrating. And, what do you say, like how the kids feel after learning the lessons, like emotionally, like do they become more confident? Like what happens as they go along the course when they're learning through Barefoot Learning Club?
Well, what we really enjoy is that this program allows the kids to be themselves completely, which is a really important thing, because I feel like in school, it's not always possible. There's a lot of misunderstandings, and then there's punishment where it's not needed. But also they build their confidence so that as they grow, they're able to pursue anything that they want to, that's exciting to them, because they know how to read. Math is easy for them.
Correct.
And then also my favorite part is that the parents feel relief watching their children excelling. And that's probably one of the biggest pieces of this. In addition to for the little ones, when they are able to put them into this program from the beginning, like say from kindergarten, then
Correct.
there's none of that exposure to all this stuff going on in the schools that a lot of parents are uncomfortable with. And so it just is even an extra boost of that confidence, and they just never stop being themselves. They keep shining, and they keep blossoming really fast. And one more thing is that these teachings Kristy does every day are recorded. So like if the parent does work, they could come home after dinner, and they could sit down and watch the recordings and do them together, in that hour after dinner. And that could be the time. So even if you're a working parent, it's flexible and really possible to do.
And then there are the no-nos. There's no worksheets, no homework, no fighting with your kids, no forcing them to do anything. And my experience has been over 30 years of teaching is that when the kids start really connecting things, they get excited and they want to do more. They're like, I get it. And they want to, they get all, tell me more. They start to realize what it feels like to actually learn and not just be told they're wrong all the time, which I just really hate that model. I just do. Right. And it's not fair. So it's so fun. It's so fun when they get excited. I sat in a math class, and the teacher was struggling to do something, and I was in a push-in with my learning disabled kids. It was actually a 7th grade pre-algebra class. And the kids were this enormous class, it must have been 40, 45 kids. They were so frustrated. And so I taught my resource kids, supposedly the learning differences. I said, you guys, this is how you do it. And I taught them. And they went around and taught all their friends in the classroom how to do it. They got all excited. They're like, hey, this is how you do it. And so that's what happens. They get excited. It becomes fun.
I love that. So you mentioned this is like basically a fundamental foundations course for the little ones, right? This is even good before they get into kindergarten, but it can be used as an add-on as add-on study for the older ones that's going to school. So to what age group is your program right now designed for?
Well, we actually have 2 different paths, because the littles, what happens with the littles is that we have to add in the component of making the letters, connecting what that letter is, and all this other stuff, which the older kids don't need. They already know how to do that. So we skip all that and we get right to it. So the supplemental is also very simple, quick lessons every day. They can watch them recorded, or they can come in live. If they're homeschooling, they can come in live or whatever they're doing. And it is I guarantee you there's nobody else that's, they're going to never get any of these fill-ins, all these gaps. As far as I know, there isn't really anything else that's specifically addressing the gaps in their learning, in their literacy. So that's what we're doing. And so really it could be up to through high school if they wanted. Yeah, the littles, we'd have to separate them out because the older kids would get really bored trying to make the letter A. They don't need that. So yeah.
Great. So basically from preschool all the way into high school, just to get a better grasp of the language, better reading skills, get better fundamental skills in the English language. So you mentioned a little earlier that you have a book that you'll be releasing soon. Can you tell us quickly a little bit more about that book?
Yes, it's called Ditch School, Teach Kids What They Really Need to Know. We actually have two because our second one is going to be, I don't have quite the title yet, but it's going to start with Ditch School again, and it's going to be something about how kids learn. I want people to understand how they learn. And it's not just kids, it's everybody. And because I think that helps put pieces together about why your kids are acting the way they act. Correct. If you know their learning modality. So, yeah. That's
great.
Yeah.
And for people that want to reach out to you to learn more about the Barefoot Learning Club, what's the best way for viewers to reach out and find out more information?
It's really easy to email us at contact@barefootlearningclub.com, and also our website is barefootlearningclub.com. All of our information's there. We have some cool downloads and videos for them to watch, and that's a really good place.
And how easy is it to start with your program?
Well, enrollment is in August 24th is when enrollment opens. And so we have an open period of 2 weeks to enroll. But if you want to get on a waiting list now, it's already there on our website. You can go to the program page and just join the wait list so that you can be the first to know when enrollment's open.
And one final question. How long is the program? Is it like 1 year? Is it like you just work at your own pace? Is it month to month? How's that all work?
We're doing it. We're starting it right after Labor Day and ending it right before Memorial Day. And it is basically one school year, the same school holidays, so that you don't have to worry about vacations or all that. And really, there will be a level 2 the following year, but really once they've had that first year, they can choose level 2 if they wish and go much deeper, or they can move on. It's not going to be an ongoing forever kind of thing. It's a very specific thing. We're going to teach it to you, and then you get to run with it.
That's great. Thank you for filling such a need that is required for all the children that missed out for school, missed out all that important learning during the lockdown. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you, Kristy. Thank you, Alysia.
Thanks, Andy.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. My name is Minna, and this is our biohacking segment. Now, I'm sure you know how to brush your teeth. You have your toothbrush, your toothpaste, your floss, your mouthwash, and all that. And I'm sure you know what to do with it. But what do people do before they had the toothbrush and the toothpaste and all that? And especially the mouthwash, which I think is nasty, and I hate it. I'd never use it. And so what people used to do is something called oil pulling. And it's something that our holistic, I think she's a root canal specialist, a dentist, she showed us what she does. So she actually used something called, this is a ozone oil paste kind of thing. You can buy it on Amazon, and I can give you the link of this. So she used this, and she just put a little bit into the mouth and, spread it around, gurgle it, and spit it back out, and that's all you need to do. So that's called oil pulling. For me, sometimes I don't like to use this. I do make my own, and all you need is coconut oil and a little bit of peppermint oil. Now I use fractionated coconut oil, which is in a liquid state. You can also use solid coconut oil. You just need to scoop a little bit of it and put it in your mouth and gurgle it, and eventually it will melt, and just gurgle it in mouth for about 10 minutes. and that's it. Now, what I do is I just put about 10 pumps. I think it's close to about 1 tablespoon of, maybe a little less, of fractionated coconut oil. And then you put a couple drops of peppermint oil into it, just to brighten it up a little bit, make it a little more fresh. And what I do is, before I go into the shower, I put this into my mouth, and you start gurgling. And then after your shower, you come back out and you spit it out into a trash bin or something. Don't put it in the sink, because you're not supposed to put any kind of oil into your sink anyways. So always spit it back into your trash, and just rinse it up with a little bit of water, and you will feel the difference. Your teeth actually feels clean. It's actually pulling all the dirt in your mouth, and you're just spitting it back out. So that is the ancient way. We do it maybe once or twice a week. You can do it more often. It's not going to hurt. And what I like about this is, even if you give it to your kid and even they swallow it, it's not a big deal. It's just coconut oil. It's perfectly fine, as opposed to the nasty mouthwash that some people use. So there you have it, oil pulling, and I'll see you next week.
Hi there, I'm Dawn Livingston, your host on the Transcend and Succeed show. Join me Fridays at 2 p.m. Central for limitless inspiration and ways to help you transcend your limitations. Tune into the Achieve TV network and the Voyage to Vitality channel. Transcend and Succeed show, right here on A360 TV.
Back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. Each week, we like to recommend a business that we know and trust. And this week, we have Jonathan Kurian with Wealthway. Hey, Jonathan. So why don't you tell us a little bit, first of all, thank you for being our guest.
Pleasure.
But why don't you tell us a little bit more about Wealthway and how does that help our community?
Sure. So there's a large crisis here in America, and we're aiming to spread financial literacy specifically in our community. So our number one goal as Wealthway is to become a financial educator, spreading knowledge that the general population don't already have.
Correct.
So people are unsure where the stock market is taking their finances, such as their 401k, or might be interested in more of an investment platform. So we give them the knowledge about those different things and options on a roadmap to get there.
That's awesome. So you're talking about knowledge that our schools don't actually give us, right? Like even people that's got a finance degree, a Bachelor of Arts degree, Bachelor of Commerce. This is not knowledge that they actually taught in school.
That's right, Andy. Unfortunately, our schools don't prepare us to really be financially literate. They really prepare us to pay into a system or perhaps put our money into the bank, right?
Correct.
Which is a dangerous place to be with low interest as well as debt coming on the rise. We want to be able to say, hey, instead of spending your money, let's save it.
That's important, especially with inflation it is nowadays. I think that is a major problem for a lot of people. They're trying to stretch their paychecks a little further out. But even more so for the people that have money, they want to figure out how they can lose so much of it. So I think that's a great way to learn more education. The more educated you are, the more informed choices you can make with your money, right?
Correct. I mean, it comes down to, like you were saying, Andy, how to beat inflation, how to beat taxes, right? If you can combine these two, there is money out there. But if we can hold on to the money, we will be more wealthy. I think Warren Buffett said it the best. Number one, don't lose money.
Correct.
Number two, follow number one.
Correct. Which makes sense. Don't lose money, right?
Right.
So I love that. So each week you actually will help people just get a little better idea what's wrong in the way they're brought up around money, and just teach them ways that they can probably what's the best way to say it? Be smart about the money.
Correct.
Yeah.
So right here at Wealthway, we have a book called How Money Works. And so every Monday, we teach about how money works, right? And we have 7 milestones that we would love to teach you about. Anywhere from how to build wealth, how to protect wealth, and how to get out of debt, right? So we teach a lot of these different things here in this building.
Correct.
So we want to get out into the community. The class is 100% free, and just spread this knowledge.
That's awesome. You hear that? It's 100% free. They're teaching you how to, and generally just be more financially free, right? Just being free from the chains of working hard and not knowing where money's going. So, Jonathan, if people want to reach out and learn more about, finances in general, and not be a dum-dum about money, what's the best way to reach out to you?
The best way is to come by the office. Our office address is 8496 Snake River Road here in Katy, Texas. You can reach out to my phone, which is 346-667-0300, or you can email me at wfgkoreanj@gmail.com.
Perfect. And from my understanding, if they are not local, they can actually jump in on a Zoom call too.
Correct. We would love to set up a Zoom call in this generation now.
Correct.
We can just zoom into your home and give you that knowledge base. I mean, we pride ourselves in helping people, so don't be shy. Feel free to reach out. We would love to help each and every one of you.
Perfect. Thank you for being our guest for our business community outreach. Part of living chronically healthy life is, independence. That's our I in life, and financial independence is a major part of that. Of the whole, success, right?
Correct.
So thank you once again. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hello. We are Mutts and Meows Rescue, a 501c3 nonprofit, foster-based, no-kill group. Mutts and Meows Rescue pulls dogs and cats from surrounding shelters in the greater Houston area. We even pick up dogs and cats abandoned on the streets. Mutts and Meows Rescue is foster-based and rely on your donations to keep rescuing. To know more about us is to know more about our furry friends and help them find their forever homes. Come visit us at Mutts and Meows Rescue on Facebook today and decide how you can make a difference.
Welcome back to Chronically Healthy Life. I just can't help but smile every time I see that
She's so
that
cute.
commercial. Anyways, next week we have my good friend Chidong. She is a financial educator, a certified financial educator, and coincidentally, she's a wealth wave. So you're gonna learn a lot next week.
I look forward to meeting her. Actually, not met her yet. So join us here next week, Friday at 7 p.m. CST. You can also watch past episode at watch.e360tv.com in the Vitality TV network. And of course, we would love to hear from you. You can give us your comments on our Facebook page, Chronically Healthy Life. And you can rewatch this episode and all the past episodes on our website, chronicallyhealthylife.com, or on our YouTube channel. Or if you have any questions, comments, email us at anything@chronicallyhealthylife.com. We'll see you next week.